Welcome to Haunt Narratives, everyone. It's Thanksgiving Eve, and tomorrow's a day for, feasting and family and all that, but tonight we're going to dim the lights a bit and explore the unsettling history hiding just beneath this beloved holiday.
Yeah, we're going on a little journey tonight, back in time to Plymouth Plantation specifically. Now it's a living history museum today, dedicated to the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag. But there's this feeling there, this sense that Plymouth Plantation, it clings to the past more than most places.
Okay, so let's break this down a little.
Right.
I mean, we all know the traditional Thanksgiving story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pilgrims escaping religious persecution, finding refuge in Plymouth. The friendly Wampanoag tribe helps them out. They share a giant harvest feast, a moment of peace and unity. But
is that the whole story? Well, that nice little storybook version kind of skips over the brutal reality. I mean, the Wampanoag had already suffered tremendously from earlier run-ins with European explorers and settlers. Disease brought over by those early contacts had just ravaged their population. So imagine, facing a new wave of these outsiders. Wouldn't you be suspicious? Maybe even scared.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It definitely changes how you see that peaceful first Thanksgiving. It sounds more like a strategic alliance, born out of necessity for both the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims.
Exactly. The Wampanoag weakened by disease. They needed allies against rival tribes. The Pilgrims, struggling to survive in a new land, they desperately needed the Wampanoag's knowledge, their skills. But let's be clear, this wasn't some partnership of equals. This alliance was built on mistrust and a very stark power imbalance.
And that uneasy peace, sadly, it didn't last, did it?
Yeah.
I know more and more colonists kept arriving, putting pressure on that already fragile relationship.
Yeah, as more colonists arrived, their hunger for land and resources, it just grew, leading to broken promises, encroaching on Wampanoag territory. It's a sad recurring theme throughout history, isn't it? And then, adding to the tension, a devastating plague swept through the Native American population.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, the Wampanoag, seeing their people dying while the colonists seemed unaffected, they probably saw it as some kind of divine retribution.
It definitely fueled a sense of injustice, resentment, all these simmering tensions, the broken promises, the disease, the fear. It finally boiled over into what we know as King Philip's War.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. Now, this King Philip was actually Metacomet, Massasoit's son and successor. The colonists gave him that English name, but what actually started this war?
Well, the execution of 3 Wampanoag men by the colonists, that was the final straw. Metacomet, already wary, he saw this as blatant disregard for his people's sovereignty, a direct threat to their existence. He knew they had to fight back to protect their land, their way of life.
So King Philip's War wasn't just a minor skirmish, was it?
No, it was brutal. An all-out war. That shattered any illusion of peace. Raids, massacres, villages burned on both sides. It was horrific, bloody, leaving deep scars on the region and its people.
And if I remember correctly, this war didn't end well for Metacomet.
No, it didn't. He was captured and executed. His body was treated with unbelievable cruelty, drawn and quartered, his head displayed on a pike in Plymouth for 20 years. Just imagine that. A stark and gruesome symbol of the colonists' victory, a grim reminder of the shattered hope for coexistence.
That's chilling. All this bloodshed, the trauma, the broken trust. It's not surprising that many believe this dark history lingers, especially at Plymouth Plantation.
What's fascinating is how this history seems to show itself. Visitors and staff at Plymouth Plantation, they've reported some truly unsettling things. Disembodied voices echoing in the buildings, objects moving on their own, even apparitions in period clothing seen wandering the grounds.
Like the past just won't stay buried. It makes you wonder, are these the spirits of those caught in all that early turmoil, unable to find peace?
That's the question, isn't it? Are they trapped by the weight of what they went through, replaying those traumatic events? Or maybe they linger, looking for some kind of resolution, some acknowledgement of their suffering.
I have goosebumps already, and we haven't even gotten to Burial Hill yet.
Oh, Burial Hill. Now that's a place where sorrow and tragedy seem to just seep from the ground. It's the final resting place for so many Mayflower passengers and early settlers. It even has a mass grave, but we'll delve into that a bit later.
I can't wait. This is what Haunt Narratives is all about.
Yeah.
Before we move on, it strikes me that we often kind of sanitize history, especially around holidays.
Yeah, we tend to focus on the heartwarming parts, the unity and gratitude, but under that polished surface, there's often a much darker, more complicated truth.
And sometimes it takes a deep dive into the shadows, like we're doing tonight, to really understand the whole story.
Exactly. We can't truly appreciate the light without acknowledging the darkness. And who knows? Maybe by facing these unsettling truths, we can learn something valuable about ourselves and our own time.
We'll be right back to explore the specific hauntings of Burial Hill. And trust me, you won't want to miss these chilling tales.
Burial Hill, it's more than just a cemetery. It overlooks Plymouth Harbor, holds centuries of stories in life and death. You see, before it became a resting place, this hill was actually the site of the colony's first fort, a silent sentinel against, unseen dangers.
Oh, wow, that just adds another layer to its haunting atmosphere. And you mentioned a mass grave earlier. What's the story there?
Okay, so picture this. A ferocious blizzard in 1778. The ship, the Brigadier General Arnold. Caught in its icy grip, the ship runs aground, the crew trapped aboard, enduring days of freezing temperatures and howling winds, before help can arrive.
Oh gosh, that's awful. I can almost hear it. The wind screaming, the waves crashing against the hull, the men huddled together, just trying to stay warm. It must have been terrifying.
By the time help got to them, it was too late for many. 70 men perished, their bodies brought ashore frozen stiff, faces locked in these eternal expressions of terror and despair. They were laid to rest in a mass grave on Burial Hill, a stark reminder of the sea's, merciless power.
It's heartbreaking. And what about the captain? He must have felt just crushed by the weight of responsibility for all those lost lives.
You're right. Captain James McGee. He survived, but he was haunted by the loss of his crew. He carried the weight of their deaths for the rest of his life. He even requested to be buried alongside them when he died, but sadly, his wish wasn't granted.
So even in death, he was denied peace. I bet that's why they say his restless spirit wanders Burial Hill, searching for his lost crew, forever trying to make amends for the tragedy.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? And that's not the only unsettling tale tied to this place. We haven't even talked about Thomas Southward Howland, the Mayflower descendant who had that fateful encounter with a suspected witch.
Oh, right. Mother Crew. What was her story again? Was she really a witch or just a woman who didn't fit in? An easy target for those kinds of accusations.
Hard to say for sure. Back then, accusations of witchcraft, they were often used to silence or punish those who challenged the social order, especially women. But regardless, the story goes that Howland evicted Mother Crew from his property, and she was furious. She cursed him, saying, "They'll dig your grave on Burial Hill."
Wow, that sends chills down my spine. And wouldn't you know it, Howland died soon after, falling from his horse. And where was he buried? Burial Hill. Just like that supposed witch predicted.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Was it just a coincidence? Or was there something more to Mother Crew's curse? Did Howland's actions, his disregard for her plight, did that somehow seal his fate? Some say his spirit still roams the cemetery, unable to find peace after his untimely death.
You know what strikes me is how these stories, they connect back to those deeper themes we were discussing earlier. The broken promises, the power imbalances, the just casual cruelty. These hauntings, if they are real, could be seen as echoes of that pain, that injustice, refusing to be silenced.
Exactly. History isn't just about dates and facts. It's about real people, their experiences, their hopes, their fears. And sometimes, it seems, those experiences, they leave an imprint, an energy that lingers long after they're gone.
And if these spirits are trying to tell us something, what is it? What message are they trying to convey? Or are they seeking justice, recognition, or just a way to ensure that their stories aren't forgotten?
Maybe it's all of those things. They might be trying to remind us that the past is never truly past, that it shapes our present in ways we may not fully grasp.
It's a lot to think about, especially as we head into Thanksgiving. It makes you realize this holiday has a much deeper meaning than we usually give it credit for.
Yeah, it's not just about the food in the family. It's about remembering. Acknowledging the full spectrum of human experience, the good A and D, the bad. That led us to where we are today.
And maybe, just maybe, by listening to these stories, by confronting the darkness alongside the light, we can find a way to honor the past and build a better future. What do you think?
Yeah, it really is. Food for thought. As we all gather with our loved ones and give thanks tomorrow, maybe by really listening to these stories, we can honor the past in a more meaningful way.
It's about acknowledging the whole, the complicated history, the sacrifices, the injustices, and maybe by facing those darker parts alongside the good, we can learn from it all. Strive for a better future.
I love that. As we've been talking about these hauntings at Plymouth Plantation and Burial Hills, I keep wondering, are these spirits just looking for recognition? Or are they trying to warn us about something?
It's a fascinating question. If we believe they're trying to reach out, what are they trying to say? Are they warning us about making the same mistakes, the broken promises?
Yeah.
Ignoring those who are different? It's pretty intense to think that, maybe. The veil between us and them is thinnest on this night, right before Thanksgiving.
And if it is, could it be that these spirits are trying to get a message to us, trying to tell us something about how we live our lives, how we treat each other, how we remember the past?
I know I'll be thinking about all of this tomorrow. As I sit down for Thanksgiving dinner, it definitely adds a whole new layer of meaning to the holiday, don't you think?
For sure. It challenges us to look beyond the traditional story, to see those complexities and contradictions that shaped our nation. And maybe, just maybe, in those quiet moments, between bites of turkey and sips of cider, you might feel something, a whisper from the past.
It really changes your whole perspective. It's not just about the feast anymore. It becomes a day of reflection, remembrance, and hopefully reconciliation.
And by sharing these stories, acknowledging the shadows and the light, maybe we can find a way to truly honor those who came before.
Well, listeners, I hope this deep dive into the darker side of Thanksgiving has given you something to think about. Maybe even sent a few chills down your spine. It's definitely changed how I see the holiday.
Remember, history isn't just in the books. It lives on in the places we are, the stories we tell, and maybe even in the whispers of those who came before us.
Thank you for joining us for this special Thanksgiving Eve episode of Haunt Narratives. If you enjoyed this exploration of the haunting history of Thanksgiving, please like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment. And as you gather with your loved ones tomorrow, remember those who came before us and the legacy they left behind. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.